typically in the past, KTM's, they've had their motocross model frames and their enduro model frames.
Yeah.
The enduro models had 30% more compliance, so a lot softer, a lot more compliant, whereas the motocross models are a lot stiffer. For 2024, they've made the enduro frames the same as the motocross frames. And the reason they have said they've done that is because the more rigid you make a frame, like the more performance you can find. It's just smaller the window to set it up. So now everything else has to be absolutely perfect to suit that rigid frame. But in logic, they say there's more room for improvement because now we've got a more rigid frame. And it was funny, I read an interview by Fabian Gusta, who's the KTM off-road manager, I think. And he mentioned that at the start of these changes, like a radical change like the frame, usually the first year it might be a step backwards. But as the years go on, 4 or 5 years down the track, there'll be 10 steps forwards over time. And it does make sense because like you look at, say, Yamaha when they turn the engine backwards, no one wanted anything to do with them bikes. Like the first year model of those, even the first 2-3 years, it was a new thing. They were still developing it. They knew it had more potential in the future. But at the start, it was like, we've got a lot of work to do. And now, fast forward, what are we now, 8 years from the backwards motor? It's the duck's nuts. It's what everyone wants. So
yeah, she's it's a wild one, and yeah, I'd love to be a part. Even now, like to be a part of the R&D, but
it's so interesting.
Just to have someone, just to actually have say and listen. Like you're top end, and the guys that are doing the R&D, I'm pretty sure Prado said in that interview, you know, they're not racing, they're not going as fast as what we do. So
for sure.
How they're not hitting everything, you know, 20% harder than we are. So we're gonna feel it a lot more than what the average guy's gonna use, and it's gonna affect more. So I think the frame, like, it's obviously cost effective having the enduro motocross one the same, and also our rally one's pretty similar. But yeah, I believe that they always had that enduro, even the enduro frame they were using for motocross in America back then, and for supercross they would adapt and weld plates in this and that to make it more stiff. With back in like 19 on that old frame they were running. And then now it's so stiff, they're finding ways to try and loosen it all off again.
So they've gone too far, and it's...
Yeah, like it was a massive step, but now, yeah, I think it's probably a bit too much. And look, they've that new factory edition, they've already made gains, and they're still working on the next model, whatever number of year it's going to be. But you know, they've gone that too far. And then that's where you got to change your suspension as well to adapt to it. New swing arm, there's new linkages. Yeah. Like it's a whole new bike. Like it's the biggest step I've probably seen in KTM since I've been riding them, I think.
It is a massive change, yeah. Like it's frame thicknesses, it's gussets, it's geometries, it's the whole 9 yards, yeah. Yeah,
like the whole ergonomics of it, like sitting on it, you think, yeah, it's sick. But when you come off, obviously when it's stiffer, you're getting so much more feel through the bars, the foot pegs, the seat, everything like that. And that's where you got to try and find the happy spot and figure it out.
And again, yeah, it's interesting. Like they could have made it perfect for the average consumer.
Yeah.
But just at that top high end, when you're really pushing it, that's where it'll show up. Its
exactly. And it's new for the whole team as well. Like you're working with the suspension guys, mechanics, and it's a new package, so you got to almost go back and try all the old things that you probably tried on the old bike in different directions, and test and fail and find out which way it works. And that's the thing, they've probably got all the information from the last year on an older bike, and then come into this and they think, oh, no, that won't work because we've already tried that. But you got to go and fail on some things to know what's going to work. You know, delete it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you don't have that backlog of data to say today it's too stiff, we'll do this. Tomorrow it's too soft, we'll do that.
Exactly. So
yeah. No, it's interesting. Very cool. So you'd have to say a frame makes the biggest impact on a bike, yeah? And everything.
I didn't think that until this bike, yeah.
A few welds
and like steel. I think frame definitely, because suspension you can tweak, like you can adjust. Frame and then engine. You know, all the 450s are pretty damn fast these days. I think the one that separates every bike is the frame to start with. Yeah. I think definitely all in the chassis.
Yeah. Which is not the easiest thing to make changes on.
No, it's not. it's got to be right from from before they pull the trigger and sell them all. So it's she's and you know every brand's a bit different. Like with the steel frames that KTM, Gaskin Husky are running to what the Japanese are running. So there's a lot of difference between, you know, these two, and they're both, you know, super
Yeah.
close on the top end of the racing.
That is wild. They'll change from year to year, like tiny little changes, but they're
Yeah.
two totally separate. What did
Yeah.
Triumph end up doing? Because they got one of each, and they basically went to see what did they think was best. This was Carmichael testing it, and
Yeah,
come
they
up
did.
with,
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah,
looked
they
up.
pulled all the good bits from everything, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks, you know, it'd be interesting to see.
Looks like more of a KTM than a.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it looks like a Honda sort of frame and that, and then I don't even had a good look at the engine, but then it's like, you know, got the Brembos and looks like a KTM swing arm, and you know, a lot of it looked like bits and pieces from bikes.
Yeah.
How it looked, and then yeah, they've sort of just tested everything and made it happen. But then Ducati's gonna be another one,
Yeah.
good one to look at too, to see how it all goes.